Hey loves, welcome back to my channel. Today guys, I'll be checking out this interesting video from Walsh, and it's titled Walsh classes with Tennessee Democrat in debate about gender affirming treatment for minors. You guys, I'm super excited for this. If you're yet to subscribe to this channel, please consider subscribing. Give this video a massive thumbs up, comment, share, and all that good stuff. And without much ado, let's see what this video is all about.
And who would this be directed to? Would you like to come up?
If I could ask Mr. Walsh.
Okay. Mr. Walsh, if you would mind.
Matt, thank you for being here.
You're recognized.
Just a quick question for you. We've heard in the news last week and even today that it's pro-life to vote against this bill. We've heard that suicides are prevalent, and suicide has impacted my family, so I'm sensitive when I hear something like that. I've read some of the stuff that you've done, and I was wondering, can you speak to the statistics of mental health and suicidal tendencies for the people who have gone through transition and for people who have not? In your studies, from what I've read, can you speak to that?
Mr. Walsh, you're recognized.
Sure. Well, the claim that doing the chemical castration drugs or surgery or hormonal intervention, the claim that this prevents suicide or has positive psychological effects down the line is utterly, totally baseless. There are no credible long-term studies that bear that out. And one of the reasons for that is that there couldn't possibly be any credible long-term studies because we've never done this to kids on this scale ever before in history. So this current, shall we say, crop of children, they are the guinea pigs. This is all experimental. We're sort of trying it out on them to see if it works. Now, they have attempted a few times to do studies, and the interesting thing is that the World Professional Association of Transgender Health, WPATH, which is a radical far-left pro-trans organization, they commissioned a study to try to prove that that hormones and puberty blockers decrease suicide rates among trans-identified youth. And even in their own study, they found that they couldn't prove it. They couldn't make that link because it's just not possible to do. The other thing I would mention too is that, the number of trans-identified youth has skyrocketed in recent years. We're talking about exponential 10x, 20x growth. Just huge numbers
It's everywhere now.
have increased. And what we hear from the pro-trans side is that, well, this is not a social contagion. It's just that, there's always been this many trans people. It's just that they were not in an affirming environment before in history, and so they couldn't come out. And now, for the first time, trans people have the ability to live their truth, so to speak. Well, if that's the case, and there have always been these sort of like millions of trans people, and if it's also true that if we don't affirm them, that it would cause them to commit suicide, then we should be able to look back in history and find just this unbroken, incredible epidemic of children mysteriously killing themselves because they weren't being affirmed as trans. And what you find is that that didn't exist. I mean, the youth suicide rate has increased exponentially alongside trans affirmation. So trans affirmation causes the suicide rate, not the other way around. The last thing I'll note is that the suicide rate among trans-identified people is sky high. It remains sky high. All the data shows this. It remains sky high even after surgery. And in fact, in the most reliable data that we have, it's years after surgery when suicidality is the highest for trans-identified people. That's the reality.
Wow.
Chairman Tyson, you good? Okay. Any further questions for Mr. Walsh while we're out of session? Mr. Hammer? Representative Hammer?
Wow, you guys, what do you think is the reason for the increase in suicide rate when it comes to the trans people? Do you think because after everything, after transitioning, after probably having a sex change surgery, they still do not feel better, and this is the reason why there is increase in suicide rate? Let me know what you guys think about this video. I think that is the major factor. If your soul does not feel at peace with the new body you have, you're definitely going to feel miserable all the days of your life. And this is the main reason why trans people are relapsing into depression and committing suicide every other day. But I need to hear your thoughts on this particular one, and let's continue watching, you guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Walsh. I found it interesting. One of our people testified today that they had their gender-affirming surgery at 16. And I know you in former comments mentioned this on your blog. At about 16, you're an adult who's mature and can make decisions. You're that at 16. I don't care what anybody says, even going so far as to say, 16 people, when you're 16, you should be married and could be pregnant or should be pregnant. So I'm curious if 16 is an adult in your view. Why does this bill have the minor defined as 18?
Mr. Walsh, you're recognized.
Yeah, that's a hit piece you took from Media Matters, from something when I was a radio host 13, 14 years ago in my early 20s. It's also not an accurate reflection of what I actually said. I was talking about the fact that people tended to marry young historically, and that's all that was about. How does that relate to this subject?
Just curious of your definition of if you feel like people are adults at 16 should.
No, people are adults at 18, but actually, your brain is not fully developed until you're 25. So we should be having a conversation about whether we should even be doing these surgeries to people at 18. But certainly before 18, it's absurd. I mean, do you think that a 16-year-old can meaningfully consent to having their body parts removed? Do you?
He can't
No?
answer. Wow.
We do not. Yeah, we ask the questions. It's not. It's. Representative Hammer, you are recognized. No more questions. Okay. Representative Clemens, you are recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you give us a summary of your educational background or your healthcare education experience?
Mr. Walsh, you are recognized.
My experience in healthcare?
Your educational background. I'm just curious. You've testified as to a lot of your own research. So I'm curious for what purpose you do that and what background you have to qualifies you to speak to that.
Well, my background that qualifies me to speak to this is that I'm a human being with a brain and common sense, and I have a soul. And so, therefore, I think it's a really bad idea to chemically castrate children. That is my experience. Also, I did. Now, it's true. I didn't go to college, but I did go to school long enough to learn how to read, so I can read the data for myself, and that's exactly what I've done.
Wow.
Representative Clemens, you're recognized.
And for what purpose do you conduct your research and use this brain of yours?
Mr. Walsh, you're recognized.
I use it for the purpose of trying to protect children from being castrated and mutilated. That's one of the things I try to do.
You don't use it
Clemens.
to. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You don't use it to get clicks on your
Let's state that.
publication.
Well, are you using it right now to try to get clicks with this interaction? No, I really like the
Mr.
idea
Walsh.
of getting of drawing attention to the fact that this is happening to children. I know you seem to find it very amusing. I don't.
Wow.
Representative Clemens.
Well, you made a lot of misrepresentations and characterizations in your comments, so I think it's fair for me to question your background.
What did I mischaracterize?
Let me finish, please.
You're recognized, Representative Clemens.
You know, if you're going to come before a committee and make mischaracterizations and misrepresentations, it's fair game for us to ask you your educational background and your foundational knowledge for making such characterizations. That's my point. So I'm curious about you speaking to the development of the human brain by the age of 25. I seem to recall you advocating on behalf of firearm possession at the age of 18. Do you think that's appropriate?
Let's stay on the bill, please.
Wow, you guys, what are your thoughts on this video? This is very, very disturbing, and I don't even know what to say. But the man asking Matt Walsh his educational background is kind of humiliating to Matt Walsh, because I don't see where educational qualification comes into play here. What matters is using one's common sense and knowing what is wrong from what is right. And the fact that this topic is under debate and these people are so shallow-minded is mind-boggling. Because if you ask me, I can't remember any decision I made when I was 16 years old or even 18 years old. And I can certainly not remember what I did when I was 25 years old. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section. Do you guys think children should be brought into all of this? And why would anybody part be cut off from a kid of 16? do you guys think that kid will not grow up later and regret every decision they took while they were 16? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and let's wrap this video up, you guys.
That's all I got.
Okay.
Yeah, well, can I respond to that?
Representative Mitchell, you're recognized.
I can't respond to what.
Representative
Yeah,
Mitchell is recognized.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, I think your original article, blog post, or tweet, or whatever, kind of started this firestorm. So I'm trying to figure out, where we need to look for these surgeries, because I'm still trying to find, the surgeries, because, the sponsor of the bill last week, I kind of agreed with him. I said, we need to split this bill into two parts. I may agree with him on the surgery part, because I don't think it's happening. So, you seem to have started this, so I need your evidence of where these surgeries are occurring in Tennessee. Could you give me, places, times, maybe some names, or something that,
Yeah.
you know of?
Mr. Walsh, you're recognized.
My evidence is the healthcare provider's own words. I outlined Vanderbilt Health and their transgender care program, and the people that work for that program, their own words, talking about what they do, and talking about, for example, providing the chemical castration drugs to adolescent children. As far as surgeries, double mastectomies do happen, and the way that I know that they happen is that after I called attention to this program at Vanderbilt, they said that they were going to stop performing, they were going to put a pause on the program that performs these surgeries on minors. And so if you're pausing the program that performs surgeries on minors, then I'm going to assume that the program existed. Otherwise, you couldn't have paused it. So now, the exact number of kids who are being subjected to this, I don't know exactly. It's really hard to come up with those numbers, I think, because the people doing it aren't really proud of it, and there's not a lot of interest on their end to tell us. But I do think that, even one child being horrifically mutilated is too many. So I know that it's more than one, and that's reason enough to put a stop to this, I would say.
Representative Mitchell, you're recognized.
Yeah. So last week I had an amendment that, we're looking to protect children from abuse. And I also had an amendment to stop cosmetic surgery of rhinoplasty and breast enhancements to minors. How would you feel about that?
Sure.
Is that mutilation of children as well under the age of 18? They can't think for themselves?
Representative Mitchell, that's not on
Thank you.
The bill that we have.
Yeah, it is. It's surgical. It's surgical.
I'm happy to answer that.
You're free to answer, Mr. Walsh.
Okay. My personal feeling about banning breast enhancements for minors?
It's wrong.
Yeah, yes, I would be all for, personally, I'd be all for banning that, absolutely. Yeah.
Representative Mitchell.
Okay, and so I think the previous representative, proved that you have no
That does not
medical
even
background,
matter.
correct?
No.
So you're here probably just as a public policy. You're trying to address good public policy, correct?
Mr. Walsh.
Yes.
So I'll just have to question, some of your public policy, expertise when, I'm reading here, Singapore is able to have nice things in part because they execute drug dealers by hanging and arrest even petty vandals and thieves and beat them with a cane until they bleed. We don't have nice things here because we aren't willing to do what is required to maintain them. So, with statements like that, I kind of have to question your public policy beliefs. And, and you also stated there'd been no studies. Well, I'm sitting here holding a study from the American Academy of Pediatrics from the University of Pittsburgh about the suicidal disparities between transgender and cisgender adults and children. So I think, before you state things, you may need to know all the facts. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Can I respond?
Chairman Williams, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion to go back out of session, or back into session. Thank you.
Is there objection? All right.
Wow, you guys, that was such an interesting one. I really enjoyed this video. And one thing I want to say here is that because one is educated, because one has a degree, that doesn't mean the person knows everything. And because somebody did not go to college doesn't also mean that the person cannot read and understand and can't have knowledge of a particular topic. Let me know what you guys think about this video. The fact that these doctors go to any length to use another person's child as a guinea pig to test out their ideas is totally mind-boggling. Let me know what you guys think. Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. I really enjoyed every minute of this video, and I believe you guys also enjoyed watching. If you did enjoy watching, give this video a massive thumbs up, comment, share, and all that good stuff. And I'll see you all in my next video. Bye guys.